Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick video looking at a brand new flight controller from SeriouslyPro. Now this is the SeriouslyPro H7 Extreme. Now I'm going to talk about this in a second, but let me very quickly talk about how long SeriouslyPro have been developing flight controllers. I originally looked at the very first flight controller that the designer of this board created back in July 2015. In fact, that flight controller was very quickly cloned, and you can still buy clones of it today. It kind of kick-started the whole F3 base revolution. Now these days, any F1 base flight controller is considered very, very old hat indeed. F3 is coming to the end of its life a whole 4 years after it was introduced. These days you want an F7, F4 or an F7 based flight controller. This is a little bit different. This has a number of things on here that I've not seen before. So I'm excited to see whether or not this is going to cause the same kind of revolution in flight controller design as that original did in July 2015. Now Dominic Clifton, the guy who designs these flight controllers, is also the chap behind CleanFlight, and without the CleanFlight project we wouldn't have things like Betaflight and iNav as well. So as well as being able to do a lot of development with software, Dominic's had a lot of experience kind of building these things too. So the idea with this video is for me to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour of this. I don't think the website is even up for it yet, so this is one of the very first times in the world you'll see this flight controller, and to collect the comments and questions that you might have, because Dominic has very kindly agreed to have a chat with me in a couple of weeks' time and do kind of a Skype interview where I can put all those questions to him and we can do a follow-up video where we can get into a little bit more deep dive. But let me give you the highlights of this new SeriouslyPro H7 Extreme. The first thing, of course, is that it's a H7 processor. That great big chunk of silicon there is not an STM F7, it's an STM H7. It's running at 400 megahertz. It's twice as fast as the F7 used in the high-end flight controllers that we use today. It gives an awful lot more headroom for more advanced intensive flight control software that we can use to further improve flight performance. The way this tends to work is that processors like this come out and everyone looks at them, and I did when the F4 and the F7 started to come out, and say, we're never going to get flight control software that needs all that horsepower. But here we are a couple of years later and we absolutely do, and this is no exception. It's just adding more headroom. But the additional processing power on here does mean that the developers of the code can do some pretty funky stuff. It could allow for smart on-screen display systems. The extra CPU horsepower means that the CPU can do extra things for the on-screen display, and maybe we could finally start to move away from these crappy Mac-style ASCII-based character on-screen displays that we're having to live with these days with things like Betaflight and iNav. It also opens up whole new areas of development for things like improved filter controls, like dual gyro RPM filtering, where at the moment you struggle to do that with the processing power in the current flight controllers. If I turn it over, hopefully you can see in the middle, those two squares, one offset at 45 degrees from the other, those are two gyros. Now they are offset from each other, and they're also each on their own SPI bus, and that allows them to be read simultaneously. Not only can they be read at the same time, but they are compared to give a much more accurate low latency reading of the movement on the board, and having two also helps erroneous readings with one of them. So if you have vibration or one of them has a bit of a wacky reading, that can be netted out by the other one reading the movement correctly. A low latency control loop is critical for good flight performance, so you shouldn't get any more faster or accurate than the processor on this thing running dual simultaneous gyros. Talking to Dominic, he's mentioned that there are firmware enhancement plans to use DMA for gyro transfers, which should further reduce the load on the already very fast CPU. It boots and stores data on the SD card. Now there is 128 megabytes of flash on here, but the cool thing is you can put the Betaflight code onto the SD card and you can boot from that. Similarly, you can save all the files and information down there as well. So rather than having to manage with onboard memory and the limitations with that, using an SD card makes it an awful lot more flexible and gives you access to an awful lot more storage as well. The SD card is on a new bus technology which provides a much easier setup and tuning experience, and also allows that very fast and easy way to get information into and out of the flight controller. On here are 7 serial ports, 12 PWM outputs. That should mean you don't run out of any ports anytime soon. And 8 of those PWM connections are actually on the solder pads, and the other 4 are available on a stacking connector, and there's a stacking VTX that fits on top as well if you want to do that. There is also an onboard microphone for PID audio. So the idea is the microphone itself faces downwards. That means that it's hopefully not going to be picking up all of the wind noise. And there's also something called PID audio, which is an audible tone generated by the flight controller, which can be used to hear how hard the PID controller is working to correct the quad. A high-pitched tone means it's working very hard. A constantly varying tone means more work. A smooth tone indicates a well-tuned system. So it's a way that you can use audio to figure out whether or not your tune is where it needs to be on your model. Again, that's something that I've not seen before, and again, it's something that the extra processing power available in the H7 allows you to do. The idea is, using your transmitter, you can select which PID audio mode you want. There's currently 3 from talking to Dominic: roll and pitch, roll only, and pitch only. And the microphone and PID audio signals are output on the audio out, so just get plugged into your standard FPV video transmitter. So this is a little bit unusual as flight controllers go. So the main takeaway, I'm guessing, is that this is designed for very fast control loops, with future firmware enhancements adding to the functionality of the board. And this on the right hand side is the stackable VTX board that has the connectors on it, and you can decide which VTX you want and solder the one on that you want, TBS module or whatever it is. And the idea is it kind of plugs into the top, and it has the connector for the VTX pieces too. So if you have any questions about this technology, then please pop a comment down below. Let me collate them and I can put them to Dominic when we have our chat over Skype. But this is exciting to see a couple of things on here that I haven't seen all in one place before, but that H7 chip is something very unusual. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching, and happy flying.